Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Felice, and this is my position on who should claim the Kennewick man's skull, the Native Americans or the scientists. Throughout the semester, we read Skull Wars, written by David Hurst Thomas. This interesting book is based on the controversy of who originally owned America, the natives or the Americans. We had a constant battle between siding with the scientists or the Native Americans when it came to an ancient artifact and whether the natives or the scientists deserved to claim it. The skull, named Kennewick Man, was a 9,000-year-old skull found in Kennewick, Washington by two college students in 1996. When first reading the book, in the beginning chapters, I believed scientists had the right to perform studies because it seemed the Native Americans were hiding a secret and feared to discover the truth. I also believe that this discovery would be vital in knowing our true American history, or human history in general. Throughout the course, I was stuck between what was fair. To me, science rules over religion because it is factual proof as opposed to religion. Natives believe their old teachings through religion and ancestors. Religion teaches them that they were the first people, which I find unreliable because this information could have altered through time. It is said that whatever challenges this belief challenges their religion. The natives regard human remains as sacred. Any man that lived along Columbian River had to have been native. It is against Native American custom to use science and man-made materials to invade their remains. This finding was thought to be a scientific treasure. However, reading about their unfair treatment made me feel sympathy towards the natives, and thus I began to understand both sides. My readings gradually led me to believe that the Native Americans deserve claim and should keep the skull. First of all, biologically, us humans are engineered the same way. Whether or not we are physically or mentally capable of certain things doesn't change our human nature. We all operate the same way, and race does not affect that. Chemicals in our physicalities and evolution engineered us humans to survive, to reproduce. Those that couldn't survive certain conditions will not live to carry on these traits to the next generation. Different environments alter some genes to help us survive. For example, Asians carry a gene that altered their eyes to adapt to the sun and climate in Asia. Africans have more melanin due to extreme sun and heat. The physical appearances are independent variables to actual heredity. A dead person, whether Spanish, Black, or Asian, is just a human species, disregarding their culture, language, customs, skin tones, etc., thus making race a myth. Other materials have taught us that race is a term to categorize people. A race isn't a gene expression that makes you who you are. DNA may say you are of such descent, however, whether you identify with it makes all the difference. In the beginning, I was firm in siding with the scientists because of the battle between science and religion. I feel that science, as a fact, is more substantial than a story carried on 10,000 years. The natives felt it was against their belief to allow probation of what was theirs. On the other hand, if the scientists continued with the study and the skull indeed turns up to be native, the procedure would have been ethically wrong. So let's forget about the possible results of the discovery. In the early 1900s, the natives were forced off their land, went through slavery and near genocide, and were forced to be molded into American society, implying that the white man was superior and that the land is theirs. There was no proof back then either, but the Americans still conquered the land as if reclaiming what they already knew was theirs, without science. The natives were thought of as barbaric, unintelligent, and unable to survive because of their inability to modernize. The Indian Reorganization Act forced the Indians to either migrate away from their land or become one of them. During the early 1900s, assimilation led to the capture and imprisonment of Indians, where they were cold and hungry, and forced to learn new language and change their appearances. If the scientists won the case and performed the studies, what good will it do now? History already took place. The natives have already suffered enough. If these experiments are performed, I feel it will only cause new and more chaos. Racism will be an issue once again and cause another uprising. The natives are not bothering anyone. They have lived through and survived the torture and forgave and moved on. They continue on with their beliefs and business in their tribes until this day. This experiment can cause grief for the natives or even cause them to retaliate. These experiments is another means for white Americans to attempt to have power regarding superiority in terms of race. Another issue is, how accurate can these studies really be? The object is over 9,000 years old. I feel it is hard to find an accurate distinction. Previous studies resulted in the Kennewick man being either white or Native American. Also, many of these studies were biased. For example, claiming that since the skull is perfectly round, it had to have come from a white man because only God can create perfection, which is the white race. In any other case, I would say science overall, but considering all that I have discussed, it will be wrong and not beneficial to conduct these experiments. If the skull turned out to be native, then that would cause them to suffer all over again. To add, I neither believe a proper burial is necessary for the skull. It is old. Who's to say it wasn't already properly buried, that it was relocated, or that the person wasn't meant to or didn't deserve to be properly buried? In conclusion, the skull should be given back to the natives because, as far as we know, Americans conquered what was Native American land. It would be unethical and can cause new unnecessary brawls, and can also be a stepping stone for scientists to want to discover more. So that's my position on the Kennewick man's remains. Thank you.